Hey guys, it's Cece, and today I am here to talk about all of the books that I read in the month of March. So March was pretty good. I'll admit that I wasn't super pleased with how much I was reading by the time we got to the end of the month, so in the last couple of days of March I just slapped on a couple of graphic novels to make myself feel better, clear off some more space on my TBR shelf, which is getting worse each and every day. But I'm totally cool with that, and I absolutely loved both graphic novels. Actually, overall ratings-wise, this was an incredibly good month. I gave pretty much everything I read 4 stars, and then I have 1 3-star and 1 5-star, so it's a pretty good ratio there. My, theme for reading in March was to only read review copies, so things that had been sent to me for review at some point. I think the only thing that I read that doesn't fit that theme is one of the graphic novels was sent to me by a subscriber, but, I mean, technically we could kind of count that as sent for review, maybe. Technically. Anyway, I read a grand total of 7 things in March. 2 graphic novels, 1 nonfiction book, and 4 just YA books. And why don't we jump right into talking about them, starting with my least favorite, my 3-star, and working up to my 5-star read. So, sadly, my least favorite book that I read in the month of March was Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. I feel like I've disappointed everyone everywhere by giving this 3 stars, namely my patrons. This was the book that my patrons picked for me to read in March. Every single month I have a poll over on my Patreon where patrons can vote on a book I'll read in the following month. They chose Undead Girl Gang for March, and I felt so bad when I got to the end and rated this the way I did. So this book is about teenage Wiccan Mila Flores, and her best friend has just recently died. Since her best friend Riley's death occurred on the heels of 2 other local suicides, the police believe that it was all part of a suicide pact, but Mila knows that Riley was never friends with those other 2 girls, so she really believes that Riley's death couldn't have been suicide and it couldn't have been an accident, so she decides to bring her friend back from the dead, and in doing so accidentally brings back the other 2 girls as well, who have basically been Mila and Riley's bullies for their entire lives. I don't even know if I can put into words what just didn't click for me about this book. I loved the rep. The main character is Mexican and fat, and she's fabulous and angry, which I love. I love a good angry girl. I think it's just that, I didn't care really about any of the other characters. I think my most disliked character in this book is Riley, and I think to a certain extent you're supposed to not like Riley, but I couldn't stand her for the entire book, so it was very, very hard for me to see why Riley and Mila had been friends in the first place, which is one of my least favorite things about YA books, is when the book begins with some sort of rift between friends and the reader is never introduced to why these 2 would have been friends to begin with, how that friendship worked. It's just really frustrating for me. I liked the beginning, but the middle I just was not that engaged, and the end I didn't love. It wrapped things up fairly well, but I didn't really love the conclusion of the mystery. I thought some elements were kind of thrown in for points, at the very end there are some lesbian witches, and they hadn't really made an appearance or been established at any other point in the book, so I was kind of like, okay, are we just throwing 2 random women together at the end of this? I don't know, there was just a lot that didn't ring true to me, and so while I liked sort of the magic element, I liked the distinction between witchcraft and Wicca, which kind of goes unexplored in YA, and I liked the main character. This just didn't do it for me, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Sorry everybody, I know that is a super unpopular opinion. Everyone loved this book. I really wanted to love this book, and I just did not. Next up we have one of my graphic novels, and that is Fake Blood by Whitney Gardner. I have to admit, I didn't have super high hopes for this graphic novel, but it was adorable. So this book is about a guy named AJ, and him and his friends are just starting into the 6th grade, and AJ has a huge crush on a girl named Nia, who is obsessed with vampires. So AJ sets out on a quest to make Nia think he is a vampire, but once he actually succeeds, it turns out that Nia is a vampire slayer. So hijinks ensue. This is an absolutely adorable graphic novel. I loved every single moment of it. It's purely middle grade, it's very fun and light. I loved it. It's not gonna be a new favorite book of all time, but I would definitely reread it. I would definitely recommend it to a lot of people. The art style is really cutesy and it works for this story. I loved, if you're a Buffy fan, there were a lot of pretty clear Buffy references. This also heavily references Twilight, like on the back of the book, for example. This is from the Twilight ripoff in this series called Moonlight, and that's the scene where the love interest reveals that in the sunlight he creates rainbow prisms. This is just a super fun graphic novel. I highly recommend it. I really liked it, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, we have the Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I finally finished reading this book. I started this book at the end of October of last year. Seriously. So this book is set in Ireland. It follows 2 characters, Puck and Sean, and in this, like, on this little Irish island, there are these seahorses, in that they are horses made of water, and they are carnivores. But the people of this island have started trapping the horses, and they race them on the 1st of November every single year in the Scorpio Races, and Puck is the first girl who has ever participated in the Scorpio Races. And both Puck and Sean have their entire lives to lose if they don't win the race, but they're also slowly being drawn together. Honestly, once I got through this book, I really enjoyed it. I could not tell you why it took me actual months to get through the first half of it. Maybe it's just slow. Sometimes I have a hard time getting into Maggie Stiefvater's writing, and it takes a reread for me to really appreciate it. Like, the first time I read The Raven Boys, I didn't really like it. It took until I reread it, and then reread it again with the full series before I really got absorbed in the story. So maybe I would like this more in a reread. I just find Maggie Stiefvater's writing is kind of dense, so it stands up to rereads better than it does a first read. But I did still give this book 4 out of 5 stars, so clearly I liked it. I loved Puck and Sean's relationship. Maggie Stiefvater has this way of writing longing between characters that I really, really love. She does an incredible job. It makes what could be a very standard romance stand out a lot more, because these are 2 characters who are fully developed and fascinating and interesting, and the build up to them getting together is so wonderful that you kind of just can't help but fall for it. And I also loved the, like, horror of these horses. Like, this is a very dark book, and it's a very serious book, and there's a lot of revenge and blood and death, but I love the setting. I really liked everything about this once I actually got through it. So, surprisingly, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, even though it took me months of time to read. Moving along, we have The Weight of Our Sky by Hanna Alkaf. This is a book set in 1969 in Malaysia, and it is about a teen with OCD who is obsessed with the Beatles, trying to get back to her mother during the 69 Malaysian race riots. That's kind of the quick summary of this book. I would argue that the getting back to her mother part of the book isn't as central as some of the summaries lead you to believe. Like, obviously that is Melodi's main goal, is to get back to her mother. That is what her OCD is telling her over and over again, but a lot of the time it is just her struggling to stay alive, her struggling with the anxiety and the OCD in meeting new people and being in incredibly dangerous situations. I would say to go into this book knowing that it is incredibly dark and visceral, and it gets going very quickly. Within, like, the first couple chapters of this book, like, a near and dear person in Melodi's life is murdered, and there are a lot of sequences of her trying to get back to her mother where you see the full devastation of Kuala Lumpur, where she is from, and it's horrifying. So, like, please go in warned that this is a very difficult book to get through. It's also a little difficult to read as far as the depiction of Melodi's OCD. This is set in 1969. They didn't really have a name for what Melody is dealing with, so at one point when she's trying to figure out what is going wrong in her brain, which is how her and her mother see it, she overhears her aunt saying that it has to be a djinn who has inhabited her body. So Melody really treats this voice in the back of her head as like a demon that's trying to control her, and that can also be very difficult to read, particularly if you have OCD. But I thought this was a really excellent book. I cried at a couple of different points. I thought it did a good job of tricking your expectations, of never quite going where you expect it to go, and never taking the easy way out. I really loved Melody, I really loved this book, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So I highly recommend it. Next, moving on to the other graphic novel that I read in March, and that is The Hidden Witch by Molly Knox Ostertag, which is the sequel to The Witch Boy. So The Witch Boy is like a middle grade graphic novel. It is about a boy named Aster who is from a community where boys grow up to learn shapeshifting and girls grow up to learn witchcraft, but Aster does not want to shapeshift and he has an affinity for witchcraft, and he's worried that that is going to cause a divide in the community and that it might possibly get him exiled from the community. It is a really, really wonderful book about the expectations that parents have for their children, particularly about gender expectations. I would say even more emphasized in this book how much it is a metaphor for queerness, which is wonderful because queerness is so normalized in this series. Multiple couples in Aster's community are queer couples. A friend that he meets, Charlie, has 2 dads. It's just like a really nice metaphor that works well, especially in a community where queerness is so normalized, to kind of put it through a totally new lens. Is really wonderful. I absolutely loved this. I liked it, I would say, just as much as The Witch Boy, if not a tiny bit more, because this is exploring some other themes. We get introduced to a new main character, Ariel, who is living with a foster family, and so some of the power that she has inherited, she never learned how to control because she never really met her biological family, and it's really great. It's a great series about friendship and expectation, and it's so lovely. I love the way that Molly writes. It's wonderful. I would read 100 graphic novels set in this universe following Aster and Charlie and Ariel and anybody else that Molly wanted to write about. So I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, just like I gave the first one. Second to last, we have Starworld by Audrey Coulthurst and Paula Garner. This book is being released on April 14th, so it's not out just yet, but it will be soon. I'm not going to talk a whole bunch about this book because I have an entire video dedicated to it that went up in March. It was the first video in my Starworld booktube tour that I worked with Audrey Coulthurst to create. And that booktube tour is 6 of your favorite booktubers, hopefully, creating a video centered on Starworld. So if you want to know more of my thoughts about this book, please go check out that other video and follow the other booktubers who were involved in the Starworld booktube tour. A few of those videos are already up and you can go watch them, and you can look forward to a couple of the, remaining videos that are going up in the next couple of weeks. I absolutely love this book, which is about unlikely friendship, and what I talked about in my video was friendships that occur at a particular right moment in your life. One of the main characters of this book, Sam, is queer, and her queerness is sort of explored throughout this book. I would say lesbian. I don't think she ever uses a specific label, but it's a really great book. Go watch my video. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly encourage that you check it out when it comes out in a couple of weeks. And the final book that I'm going to talk about, my favorite book that I read in March, is a nonfiction book. This may be a first for my channel, everybody. My favorite book that I read over the course of a month was a nonfiction book. And that book is Real Queer America, LGBT Stories from Red States by Samantha Allen, which I don't think surprises anyone if you follow me on literally any other social media. This was one of my most anticipated releases of the entire year, and the publisher was so nice to send me an early copy. This was released, though, back on March 5th, so you can already get your own copy if you would like one. But this book was written by Samantha Allen, who is a transgender reporter, and she is going on a cross-country road trip with her other trans friend, Billy, to queer communities in conservative states in America. This is an absolutely incredible book about the queer communities that we create in conservative states and the ways that those communities are not fragmented. Like, one of the central points of the story that Samantha has kind of set out to prove is that these queer utopias that exist in America, because there are so many queer people in that area, it means that the community is fragmented. It breaks off into separate little mini categories. But in conservative states, where our numbers are not as big, it encourages acceptance. It encourages a community where all queer people come together. It's about the found family that we create. It is about Samantha's personal experience coming out as trans after growing up in Utah in an incredibly Mormon family. And if you were worried that this is about, white cis gays, absolutely not. This really explores a huge range of communities that are people of color, who are trans, who are non-binary, asexual. There's a reason that this is called Real Queer America, and LGBT Stories from Red States maybe makes you assume that it's going to be just about, like, the L and the G, but it is not. It paints an absolutely gorgeous picture of queerness. It made me feel proud of my own queer identity. It made me feel proud of the communities that we create in the face of adversity. I absolutely love it, and I highly, highly, highly recommend that you check this book out because I love it, and it is one of my new favorite books of all time. And I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, that is it. Those are all of the books that I wanted to talk about that I read in the month of March. What did you think about my reviews of all of these books? Have you read any of them? What did you think? Let me know down in the comments below, especially if you felt differently about any of these books that I read. Other than that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!